last of the cowboys, the giddy up gone boys. 18 wheels on the concrete, it's a slow and dying breed, rolling like Jesse James, a modern day outlaw game. If you're out here riding with me, come on back and make some noise. We're the last of the cowboys. Saddle up, boys.
I got this camera here pointing forward, so sometimes I'll be framing up the shots to use the camera in front, and other times I'll be behind you. But basically, you go ahead and roll along like you normally do, and I'll just kind of float around you.
Okay, sounds good. If I don't talk to you right away, it might be because I'm swapping gears.
Yes, sir. tell you what, you weren't joking. She is one healthy sounding girl there.
Yeah, the wind's pulling on her a little bit too. She makes her beller then.
Nice. Well, we can go ahead and get into this conversation here. I was over there at Four State Trucks, came up there to do some work. Brian and Bryce Martin wanted me to, create some content for them to use in social media and whatnot. And I was just about done for the day, and I happened to walk around into the parking lot and saw you sitting there. I tell you what, I completely lost track of what I was there for. I'm glad I came across you and had a chance to meet with you, and I really appreciate you coming out here on the road to really allow people to see what your old girl sounds like. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us all about the truck there?
Well, my name is Heath Church. My wife and I, Jaylyn, we live in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and we're also based out of South Dakota and Wyoming. So we've got family up there. We kind of, for the most part, we do our own thing. I use a broker most of the time out of Iowa. A good friend of ours is a family. And the truck, it's a 1979 W900A model, and long hood, of course. We've updated quite a bit of it over the years here. It's kind of been our project along the way, and it's got a C15 6NZ cat in it. It's pushing about 1,000 horsepower, and I got a 6 and a 4 spicers and all that good stuff in it. So I think on the dyno it's about 127 mile an hour truck, but I don't know if she'd stay together if I did all that to her.
I tell you what, that's a laundry list, and you were joking around when I walked up there and spoke with you. You said you run at night mostly to keep people from chatting you up about it, huh? What do you haul mostly?
We haul a lot of steel. We do a lot of lumber out of the Black Hills of South Dakota. We do just about anything that'll go on a flatbed. Sometimes we'll do a few oversized loads. We step deck on the side a little bit. We got a couple of trucks, and we just kind of try to make a living.
Well, I hear that. You're certainly making a respectable living in a respectable truck. I posted some photos of what the truck looked like, and sure enough, a lot of people, they were a little awestruck by the truck and how you got it put together there. Tell me what it kind of started out as in the process of getting it to what it is now.
Well, believe it or not, this truck I bought from a very good friend of the family, Mr. Bill Spencer. It's kind of right in its home territory right here going down I-49. Charlie Bates Jr. used to own this truck, and it used to be painted all red at one time, and Bill was in the process of wanting to do something with the truck, and we just kept staying in touch back and forth, and we got started with the paint, and then we just started putting it together kind of piece by piece. The motor, when we first put it in, we had a little problem with it, a little bit of setback, but all in all, it's been a lot of fun to put it together, and we do use it. I mean, she's on the payroll at least 7 months out of the year. This is the one I usually drive all summer, and I don't know. It's just been a project. I like to tell people that. I could say it's a work in progress, but sometimes you scratch your head trying to figure out to get old parts and new parts to work together. But we got a good start on it. I hope she holds together for a few more years.
What's in for? So how many years was it that you were putting things together there at Four States? You walked out with a box of parts and whatnot, and you said that the folks at Four States don't realize that they have helped you build, trucks over time. So, what were some of the things that you changed over?
Actually, I like Four States because they've got a huge variety of just about anything under the sun. You got an idea for, and if they don't got it, they can help you make it sometimes. And I don't know. Over the years, this is the third one that I've built, and they're kind of my go-to store, believe it or not. I mean, just all the accessories and extras, a lot of times they have it. I try to get through and pick up a bunch of parts. I was here about a month ago and got a whole bunch of stuff put together.
Now, you said 1,000 horsepower. Wow, that caught me by surprise. I wasn't thinking that. Once you get situated there gear-wise, tell me what you did to get her up to 1,000 horsepower thereabout.
Well, the first go-around when we first put it in there, I kind of didn't know what we had, but I do now. It's got a marine cam, and it's got 58 cat injectors in it, and believe it or not, this truck is pulling a flatbed or a step deck around. It'll do about 6.5 about all the time. If the wind's blowing like today, it'll pull it down to about 5.5. But I did it for fuel mileage more than anything. I just kind of stay just easing around with it, and it does real good.
Tell me about the bunk and the interior. I got to take a look inside earlier when we were at Floor States, and I tell you what, it looks immaculate. It looks like I was going back in time. It's so perfect. What did you do with the interior there?
As far as the bunk goes, it's a 1981 66-inch double eagle flat top bunk, and it's all original. I added a television and a refrigerator back there, but the interior, we left it virtually all alone. The truck interior was all original, and there's a friend of mine, Tim Weaver from Indiana. He actually helped redo the whole interior of the truck to match the sleeper, and so he had a big role to play in that. The dash is all done in a Seattle package, and underneath the dash, and we put carpeting in there to make it that much nicer. So it's pretty big project.
So you said a Seattle package. I guess that was just for that region of trucks that were coming out of the Northwest over there, or I have no clue. I've never heard that before.
It was the fancy interior, the fanciest one you could get back in the day, and I guess my understanding is they called it the Seattle package because that's where Kenworth's home base was, up there. And like if you were ordering a truck with owner-operator specs, you could order the Seattle package, which gave you the leather-covered dash, a few little extras here and there, and otherwise the steel came, or the dash would come with the metal showing on it. It would be painted, but everybody always liked the Seattle package because it just gave it more of a finished look.
When people come up to and chat with you, what are they usually drawn to the most?
Believe it or not, a lot of people are really interested in the bunk. It's Double Eagle went out of business just a few years ago, and everybody's interested in where can you get the Hart windows, and where did you get that bunk at, and everything. And once you kind of get to talking about that, everything just goes from there. They start looking at the rest of the truck, but a lot of times the bunk will draw them in more than anything does, seems like.
Now you mentioned that you're going to be building another truck as well?
Yeah, I bought a brand new piece back in '04, and we've got just a shade over 1 million miles on it now, and that's kind of the reason I was at Four States, is to pick up some more parts for that truck. And actually when we bought it brand new, I bought a bunch of parts there to finish it, so we're getting to start on that one all over again. It's kind of the gift that keeps on giving.
Definitely so. I guess we better get lined up to turn around here at this next exit.
Okay, sounds good.
Tell me how you got into trucking and how long you've been trucking for.
Well, years ago, everybody does something for money, I guess, and I had a tough year rodeoing and didn't really have a lot of money laying around. And my old man, he drove truck before, and he got with a really good close friend of the family, and we got in a truck, and we were gone for about 10 days, and we trucked out into Indiana and down to Texas and made a couple of laps around, and that's kind of how I got started. And then from then, it's 23 years later. It's in the beginning, I was like, man, I can't believe I get paid to do this, and now after 23 years, you're always going, man, I wish we got paid just a little bit more to do this. So it's kind of funny how the record gets flipped over.
Yeah, definitely. How old were you when you got into a truck? Go ahead and come right when you can.
Okay, I'll get around this oversized. I was 24 years old when I got in a truck, and I remember my dad, because he's drove truck all of his life. He goes, son, if you get in there, you won't ever get out. And I laughed at him. I said, I'm just going to do this for the winter. And here we are.
So he was right, eh?
Yeah, so far he's been right. I love doing the job. Sometimes the business side of it gets a little bit challenging from time to time, but the fun part is still getting to put something on a trailer and take it to somebody that's waiting on it. They're usually pretty happy to see you, and you get to kick the rocks around in the parking lot for a little while you're unloading and enjoy the moment. But the business side of it at times is you could use all the help you could get.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, I've heard some guys say that before, where running a step deck or flatbed, they're usually when they get there, people are in a good mood. They're expecting you, and they're welcoming you because you got something that they want. Out of all the things that you've hauled and whatnot, give a little bit of how should I say, some pointers to somebody that would want to start hauling flatbed that may have been doing something else. What would you say to a guy that would want to get into flatbed?
Well, I guess take your time. It takes a long time to learn how to tie down good. It takes it's a kind of an art form, really. And I'll be 47 years old this year. Even this morning I got up, and I'll tell you for an example, there was a guy parked across from me in a rest area that had a coil on, and he had that thing tarped up, and it looked absolutely like it was welded on the trailer. And I love to see that. I just take pride in what you do, and the sky is the limit from there. I mean, if somebody sees you're doing it to the best of your ability, they're going to use you. That's the one thing I've had going for me as long as I've been doing this, is I've always tried to do a good job for everybody that we work for.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Doing it to the best of your ability. Sometimes some guys are going to kind of half-step it just a little bit. They want to put a whole lot of energy into it, but doing it to the best of your ability goes a long way, and obviously people see that. Business-wise, how has your business grown because of doing that?
We get a lot of, believe it or not, we get a lot of repeat customers that call us back. I actually work for a broker, and she's got about 7 of us put together, and we're all crazy. Every single one of us, has come from the era where you do your job the best of your ability, and they keep calling us back. They want us to haul the same stuff about all the time, and it helps out. You can create a routine and kind of stay in it, and that's longevity right there. I mean, if you got repeat customers, you're probably going to stay in business longer than somebody that doesn't.
Definitely. All right, I'm going to jump over to another topic right now. The hot topic is the electronic logging devices. What's your take on something like that? I mean, this truck come from a time period where there was no electronic logging devices or anything of that nature. What's your opinion on that?
I tell you what, I'm old school. I mean, everybody makes fun of me. I still use a flip phone, and if I had it my way, I'd still have my bag phone. But when the ELDs come out, I don't think that they really realize right now just how much it affects the entire nation. I mean, from the consumer to the shipper to the DOT man to the truck driver, and it's a big statement to say, but I just don't think that the country is quite ready for it yet. I just don't. It's going to slow a lot of things down. It's going to make a lot of the good guys that are out here. I think it's going to push them away from the industry, and it's going to hurt it somewhat.
Yes, I agree. And we kind of touched on this in the parking lot earlier when we were talking. And you said it's going to force a lot of the good hands out of there. The guys that are really experienced and the guys that know how to run the country. I mean, elaborate on that for me.
Well, a lot of the older generation is kind of like, I'm kind of in between. I can kind of get by on some electronics, computers. My wife always tells me to quit beating on the keys, but my dad's era, they just don't use them. So anytime you want to force something on them like that, they feel like they're losing a freedom, and that's kind of my take on it too. I mean, we've given up quite a few freedoms out here in the last 23 years, and I hate to see this one put the topper to a lot of good guys, but I'm afraid that that's the trail that it's headed down.
Yeah, it seems that way. And, a lot of guys have had some comments on what's going to happen as a side effect of these ELDs. What's your take on the side effect?
Well, you're not going to be able to drive your truck the way you want to drive it. It's just, there's the way the rules are set up, you're going to have to revolve around the clock, and you're going to have to be like a piece of machinery. And a lot of guys, including myself, we've spent a lot of time over the years trying to get into cities in the middle of the night. That's kind of the safest time. The traffic is down, people aren't around, so my deal with it is safety. There's a few things that I do to keep me safe and everybody around me safe, because I'm playing with 80,000 pounds, and a lot of people, they just don't grasp the concept of that. And the more that they influence your driving, so to speak, and they limit you on what you can and can't do as far as safety goes, it's going to make guys rush. It's going to make them push to get there. They're up against the clock all day long, and that's going to make them even tireder because they got enough on them already without having to deal with the stress of something like that. So we'll see what happens with it. I try to stay pretty optimistic, but I've got 2 trucks. One of them's supposed to have ELDs, and this truck doesn't. It's not on the list yet. So I think I know which one I'm going to be driving.
Right on. Now, I'm going to go back to when you said that you learned how to drive because you went with your dad for about 10 days. What were some of the things that you picked up during that 10-day process, and compare that to how some of these driving schools may or may not be beneficial to a guy?
Oh, wow. Looking back, the rules were a lot different back then. I mean, hours of service was different, things like that. But I was taught to like lots of space. Give yourself some space so you can get stopped. You never know what's going to happen in front of you. That's probably the biggest thing that I learned right away was, if you're just starting out and you're not that great at shifting, or even if you got a big truck that's got an automatic in it, better give yourself some room, and it'll tighten up on you fast. I run a 6 and a 4 in this truck, and it takes just a little while to get enough shifts to where you got to bite on your Jake so that you can get things slowed down. And that's the biggest thing that I think we all play with every single day out here. As far as back then, I mean, there was 2 guys in a single bunk truck, and I'm trying to learn how to drive, and it was kind of funny. I mean, back then there was there was a lot of truck stops that didn't have showers, and boy, I remember that first week out there, I was like, man, we got to get to a rain box pretty soon. This gets to be old.
Rain box, I never heard that term. Now, I'm going to ask you something else there. You mentioned keeping your distance. You know, of course, that is something that is necessary. With just driving in general, you know, clutching, shifting, tie downs. What did you observe? You know, being hands-on, what did you observe?
Back in those days when we were flatbedding, everybody kind of worked together on it. It seemed like if there's 2 or 3 guys coming in together, you helped each other roll your tarps up, and you helped each other tie down and stuff. And it's changed a little bit since then. Everybody's kind of got their own way of doing things, and I guess that's what I noticed more than anything, is a little bit of the camaraderie is dissipated, so to speak, and it's really a lot of fun when you run into somebody that still has that mentality, because you get to laughing and cutting up, and it makes your job fun, believe it or not. I mean, just to go over and ask somebody for some help, I do it a lot. I'm like, man, how do you tie this thing down? Got any ideas? And you get with some people and they have a good time with it. You get to making fun of each other, and you're gonna make mistakes. That's the one thing that I mean, I don't care who you are, if you're out here and you drive long enough, you're gonna make a few mistakes.
Yeah, definitely. And what you mentioned, not being afraid to ask for help, you know, it's not going to kill a guy. You know, you may feel a little awkward at first, but, you know, the learning process is invaluable. You come away with having learned something, you know, that's going to make doing your job a little bit better, because that's what it's all about. When you can learn from somebody, that's the key, you know?
Yep, you're exactly right.
We may not have time for it because we got to go around this little clover leaf here, but I want you to explain the principles of shifting a 6 and a 4. You know, we got that camera in there. Hopefully it's still recording you, and we're getting to see what's going on in there. But once we get around and get back up to speed, I'm going to want you to explain that for me.
Oh, boy. Funny, half the time I don't know where I'm at. I know what gear I'm supposed to be in, but I couldn't even tell you the number of it. That's kind of funny, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's probably more about feeling, right? And sensation, road speed, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, these transmissions were really, really tight when we first put them in here, and they get a little sticky sometimes.
10-4.
man, you can block for me any day. You're good at that.
Yes, sir. Going back to the 6 and 4 principle, tell me about that for those that don't know. I mean, there's been some trucks that simulate that kind of setup. Believe it or not, I have not filmed a truck that actually runs that setup.
Well, this has got a 6-speed main box in it and a 4-speed auxiliary, which means there's 2 transmissions. One's hooked to your bell housing, of course, and the other one's right behind the other one. And it's virtually, the best way I can explain it, it's kind of like an 18-speed, except it's not married together, so you don't have a splitter, you don't have any air going to it, so when you're going through your gears, so to speak, you take 6 times 4, you actually have 24 forward gears, but at times you don't shift 24 times, or I don't. I mean, you kind of go through the motions. Each big gear, which is your 6-speed, you've got 4 ratios, so to speak, to choose from. It's kind of I don't know, I've heard guys say there's a speed, or there's a gear for every speed, so to speak, and believe it or not, there really is. I mean, you can keep mixing them up until you find exactly what you're looking for. If you want to run 1,500 RPMs all day long on your tack, you can certainly do that. Some of the first trucks that I ever drove had these in them, so I've always kind of liked them. Really, they're very free when the truck's moving, and when you get tired, sometimes they'll make you look a little like you don't know what the heck you're doing. But for the most part, I mean, even with what I got under the hood, I kind of got to take care of them a little bit. They're not really set up for that kind of torque, so always in the back of your mind, you're constantly letting off of it instead of really getting in it. I've got plenty under the hood, and even like coming up this hill right here, I'm just barely on my throttle, and it's just moseying right on up the hill.
Yeah, I see that. You're inching up on me pretty good here. I'm going to scoot over to the left so we can get a good listen at you. Well, Heath, as we get ready to slide back in here, I got to tell you what, I wasn't expecting to do any rolling CB interviews today, and I don't think you were either. But I appreciate you taking a minute, or actually more than a minute, but taking some time to wait for me to get all set up here. And I appreciate you having that conversation. I know you probably got to go through some gears, but I appreciate you.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're just going to have a look at you here as you slide back in here to that cut above polish shop here, get all cleaned up.
Yeah, 10-4.
Alrighty.